Hello and welcome to another edition of the Change Exchange. Our guest today, Katlego Maboe.
How
We're
are
so
you, Ruda?
happy to have you here.
I feel like I should say the tables have turned.
Yes, indeed.
It's good to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to have fun in the next half hour or so.
I'm looking forward to it.
You discovered that you could sing because your grandmother forgot you at school.
That's exactly how it happened. I think even at that moment, I didn't know that I could sing because I was at school, having just finished my homework, and saw a bunch of kids streaming into the school hall for the choir auditions that I didn't know, but I followed out of curiosity.
How old were you?
As a cat does. I was in grade 5, my second year at Potchefstroom school. And so I went in and we got given papers. We had to write our names down, and the teacher was there playing music notes and on the piano, and then asking us to then write down how many notes we could hear. It was a hearing test to first establish whether you were tone deaf or not, I guess. And to my surprise, I wasn't tone deaf, and then started singing as first soprano in the choir. That was, yes. And yeah.
All of about 8 years old.
Yes, exactly. And that was many, many moons ago, and I've enjoyed music, and it's been such an important part of my life since.
How did Flip a Coin come about?
Flip a Coin was started by a group of guys at Veritas Manscourses on the campus of the Northwest University. And in my second year in varsity, I went to the residence, they approached me and asked me if I was interested to be part of this group because they were starting this new kind of fresh flavor of acapella music, and they had seen me performing the previous year for a men's residence called Heimat. And in this performance, I beatboxed. And so,
what's that?
Beatboxing, it's when you use your mouth to make percussive sounds, like, yeah. So I did a little bit of that, and so they thought they'd like to integrate this into their repertoire and what they do to kind of give the group a new flavor, and that's how I made it into the group, and that's exactly what resulted in where I am now, because as a result of Flip a Coin, I got to go to things like the Kaka and Ka, to all kinds of music festivals like Enthralled, and we made a name for ourselves, and that's how I got into contact with the very person that got me to my first TV audition.
But you were studying BCom.
Yes.
You were on your way to being a very serious business person.
Well, I think I still look rather serious in my seats. Yeah, that was the plan. I was gonna be a partner at some audit firm, drive a 7 Series, wear Armani suits every day. And I guess it wasn't so much my dream as it was my mom's dream. She wanted me to really have a solid career behind me. And I guess being an accountant, which was something I was good at high school, is something that she thought might be a good option. But my heart and passion have always really been in music. And I would have changed the 7 Series for a slightly smaller car in order to perform on stage one day.
Yeah. So can you remember that decision?
I can, yes. It was actually registration day. And I was standing in what
first year?
In first year, yes. And I was standing in what they call Lover's Lane, on the campus. And
yes, it's beautiful with the trees.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I remember this row of kids all excited and waiting because they all seemed so sure of what they wanted to do. And I was standing there with my mom, and I either had to go the one way, it was like a crossroads, literally. The one way where I'd go and register at the economic department, or I could go down the road to the music department and register, because I had been recruited for both the degrees. And I think I just made a decision at the time to respect my mom's wishes, that she's worked very, very hard to get me to where I am, and I guess the last gift I could give to her is to get this degree, and afterwards, hopefully, God willing, my path would still find its way back to music, as it always has, without me necessarily willing it that way.
Yeah. And how does your mother feel about what you're doing now?
Oh, she loves it. Mom's like one of my biggest fans. She wakes up every single day to watch Expresso, to watch every performance. In fact, when she doesn't see me on the show, she gets worried and starts calling the office to find out where I am. But in the beginning, I understand why it was scary for her, because she wasn't sure what the world of entertainment would present to me.
And it isn't as secure.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. And she'd seen many careers that went up in flames, and she didn't want me to be one of those. So I completely understand, but I do know now that she knows that I can take care of myself, and I've got a plan in mind that I'm working towards. So that's good.
So tell me about the interaction with the person who gave you your first audition.
Oh, okay. It's Jorney van Eysteen from Disselblom. Exactly. So he was the MC at a Huisgenoot tent at Kaka, and we were performing at that very stage. And afterwards, he said to me, he pulled me to the side from the group and said to me, listen, are you interested in doing television? And I thought to myself, well, I'd always wished I was one of those kids on YoTV that, just rocks up and go crazy and people like enjoy what you do. And at the time, The Cut magazine was planning on starting off their own TV show on SABC3. And so he told me the details of the audition. I thought about it, and I thought, well, why not? And so I got into a taxi, drove all the way to Johannesburg. I'd never ever done that before in my life. Called a couple of friends to help me, maneuver the streets to find my destination for my audition. And lo and behold, there I was sitting in front of Leon van Nierop. And I had no idea who he was, though. But the funny thing is that I had two scenarios to prepare. I was either going to interview him as a film critic or as himself. And I'd done the research on both because I didn't know whether they'd ask me on the spot to do the one or the other or both. And I just hadn't read the details in the email that said, just choose one. And so I'd stressed myself into a corner because I was like, oh my gosh, what if I've got to do both interviews and they're so long? And it went down smoothly. And a couple of weeks later, I got the call that I'd gotten the job on The Cut TV, and I was going to be on SABC3 on Friday evening at 7 o'clock. It's primetime TV.
In Afrikaans?
In Afrikaans. And that's how it all started. And after that came 50-50. And after
but
that,
wait, what did it feel like? I mean, and did you know then that this would be a career? Or did you think this is a one-off gig and it's quite fun and it'll be over by next week?
I think at the time, I was more worried about how I would get to Johannesburg in a taxi every week to go and film links and do these shoots. And just the excitement of being in front of the camera was what fulfilled me and what I loved, the interesting stories. I mean, we went to a small town in the Northern Cape and we met these steelsmiths that made Damascus steel knives, which was the most fascinating story. I don't know if you know, you probably do know Damascus steel that gets folded over and over again, and afterwards when the metal is polished, different textures come out of the metal, and so no knife is the same as the other. And they were telling me this story. It was in this old house at a farm, and so it was those stories that I got the chance to involve myself in and become a part of these people's lives for a short period of time that really fascinated me, and I wondered, wow, how many more interesting stories like this are there out there in the world? And I really like doing this, and I like telling those stories. I like asking those penetrative questions that make people talk about their past and their lives, and
It's not the questions, it's the listening.
It's the listening, yes, that leads to the next question, exactly.
So you actually almost crossed over into journalism.
Yes, without even
Because
knowing.
that's not just presenting.
Yes.
That is getting into the content of the story, getting into the other person's world. That's journalism.
Exactly, exactly. And so I found myself completely fascinated by this world, and I think it's only once I got my second job in TV on 50-50 that I really potentially saw this as a career, because how it came about is that one of the producers that I'd worked with on a story on The Cut was a producer for 50-50. And so when the chance came about for them to take Veld Focus and give it a bit of a revamp and a new fresh look, he went to Clive Morris, who's the producer, the executive producer of 50-50, and said, give this kid a chance. He's got some great energy about him. And so when I got the gig, I was like, wow, this is my first time working with auto cue. This is amazing. I could actually do something with this. If I really work hard and I practice and I become good at this, it could be a career.
But you have something on your CV that makes you very welcome in the Afrikaans community. You are a black person who speaks Afrikaans like me. How did that happen?
Wow.
Because the pool is small. Okay. So it does make you stand out.
I find that to be lesser and lesser true these days.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of young black kids are not just fluent in English or Afrikaans, but all kinds of other languages as well.
What do you speak?
I speak Setswana, my home language,
yes.
English, Afrikaans, a little bit of Xhosa, a bit of Zulu. If you speak Setswana, they're very related to Sesotho and Sepedi as well, so I can handle a conversation there. And I'm working on a little bit of German.
Huh.
Ja, ich kann ein kleines bisschen Deutsch sprechen.
Is she pretty?
I actually watched the movie yesterday where one of the lines was, I know a little German, he's standing right over there. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But how it came about is that my uncle built my grandparents' house in Potchefstroom. And I guess in the environment that he was working in, and also at the time, Afrikaans was very much a used language. And so I would constantly hear him asking, or my grandparents asking him, now, how many bricks are we going to need to build this? Hoeveel sakke cement and so on. And he always used this word omtrent. And it fascinated me, like, omtrent, what is that? In fact, that was the very first Afrikaans word that I learned how to use, although it may be out of context. And my grandparents always used to skin it about me behind my back, and when they did do that, they would then speak in Afrikaans, so which made me wonder, because I would always see that they're looking at me while saying this thing, and I'd want to know. And so I started watching shows like Minamu and Davi, die Kabouter, and Brakanyan, and Lucky Luke. And I first actually learned to sing the songs before I could even understand what they meant. I practiced to execute that accent, Ak is Davi. I'd listen to it and I'd run it exactly like that. And when I got the chance to be part of the Northwest Children's Choir, I was in an environment immediately where I had to go to choir practice every Friday. And I was surrounded by at least 90% of the kids in the choir were all Afrikaans speaking. So in order to make some kind of friends and to really enjoy the experience of being in the choir, I had to learn to speak the language. And so I did, and it worked out very well for me because it meant that I was very, very welcome, like you say, into the Afrikaans communities. I would then understand the value of saying goeiemôre tannie and not just hey yay.
Yeah, so you also pick up something of the culture.
Oh, the culture, yeah.
But the other indigenous languages, you were surrounded by that where you were growing up.
I guess not really, because Potchefstroom, it being a northwest province town, is very much saturated by Setswana. So I had to venture out on my journeys to try and find other pieces of culture through language that I had the chance to explore. So whenever we'd go on a choir tour, I'd try and see if I could learn something of that place. When we went to Mauritius, I tried to pick up some French. Never worked out really. But it's always just been about that cultural exchange and the value that you get to learn about people's history, about what they believe in when you can speak their language. And
getting back to your musical career, how far did Flip a Coin go?
Flip a Coin went far.
Well, it's all over YouTube.
It is all over YouTube, but oh goodness, we were doing so well. I really believe that if we all had focused on the same dream and we all as a group wanted the same thing, we really could have been big. I mean, if you look at the likes of The Soil right now that have been invited to perform at the Apollo Theatre in New York, and the likes of the Pentatonics that are now world sensation. There's movies like Pitch Perfect that have now been made all about acapella. And I remember us doing it, and at the time that we were doing it, there was only us, Flip a Coin, Navy Red, and another group that I can't remember, but we were the front runners of South African acapella. And the SAD culture at universities also started becoming very popular. Being part of the SAD team was almost as good as being, a scrum half or a fly half in the first rugby team. It was that popular. So how far did it go? I think we got to a level where we were very well known all across the country, which helped very much that, when I started in TV, I was kind of a well-known face, especially in the Afrikaans community, because if you think of all the festivals that we went to, those were predominantly attended by Afrikaans people. But yeah, always in my mind I'll say we never went far enough. We could have gone so much further.
Yeah, because you were young men and each one had his own dream and went off on his own trip.
Exactly. I mean, we performed in front of presidents and sheikhs, and we were doing really, really well at the time.
And now you're incredibly busy. How do you balance it out and find time for a personal life?
I don't. I'm very much obsessed with my career and my work. I think because I enjoy it so much, it never really feels like work whenever I'm doing it. But I do try and find some space just to kind of not do anything if I feel like it. Maybe take a walk up Table Mountain every now and then, but it doesn't occur very often. Do
you plan? Do you have a 5-year plan, or do you just there's a door open and okay, I'll go through?
I do. I've got my picture of where I want to be in 5 years, and I've started putting a team together in terms of an agent, a PR marketing manager, and people that are helping me to not only have those dreams in here, but put them down on paper and actually start working towards them on a daily basis. So that definitely is in the works.
So may I ask what the dreams are, or what the dream is?
If I can be a mixture of Michael Bublé, Josh Groban, Ellen DeGeneres, Ryan Seacrest all in one. Be able to work in 2 time zones like Ryan Seacrest and do all of those things, perform on stages, and be a great broadcaster, bring entertainment and mirth and good positive energy that can contribute to this world being a better place than what I found it in, then I think I'd have done well. President? I don't know.
Give yourself time. There's, another
There's time. I need
decade
a
or so.
couple of grey hairs before that happens.
Yeah. And your family, Katlego, your relationship with your grandmother, your mum?
It's wonderful. They are my rock, especially in an industry where things could fall apart very easily. You need some kind of solidity and somewhere that you can hold on to when you're feeling a little bit rocky, and that's where my grandparents and my sister and my mom all play quite a crucial role. My mom is one of the only people that when things are really going crazy around me, I can give her a call and she'll tell me that it'll be okay. And I believe it. For some reason, like a little boy, I still believe whatever she says. And they're very important to me.
And do they sometimes look at you and say, don't pull the star act?
Never that. No. I think they want me to. They want me to. I mean, I think as a first generation in my entire family, and to have gone to the first Model C school to speak English and Afrikaans and to be doing this, sometimes I think they're enjoying this more than I do. My grandmother has turned into a little bit of a celebrity at church on Sundays. After church, she's more excited about telling everyone about what happened on Expresso during the week than about the sermon. No, but I love that they're enjoying it as well. It makes it, I think, extra doubly fun, the fact that they're enjoying it as much as I am.
And what do you look for in a partner?
Whew.
Or haven't you filled out
That escalated quite quickly. What do I look for in a partner?
You're surrounded by women you love and who love you.
I think essentially somebody with a personality and the strength of my mom. She's gone through a great deal and still maintained sanity and humanity and love and positivity to give that over to me. So I think it would be somebody who could do that for me and could cook a Sunday lunch like she does.
Oh,
tough job,
that's
ladies.
a big
Tough
ask.
But I think, somebody whom I could just feel would help me to hold a family together. That together we could be a great team.
And do you see yourself as a dad?
Very much. Very, very much. Rugby games, soccer games, ballet, choir recitals, everything.
There's a vacancy here, girls.
Whoa, ladies! Not right now. Give me a couple of years.
He's a bit busy at the moment.
Yeah. And I take love very seriously as well, so I would need to completely be focused. Yeah, but that's the kind of person I look for.
And for your home, you live in Cape Town now permanently. Your base is here.
Beautiful.
What makes a home?
What makes a home for me is food. Whenever I recall some of my best memories growing up, it's always connected to food sometimes, or some way. Whenever I'd visit my mom, Puito saying, I'd always remember the Sunday lunches that she cooks, because I'd walk in from church and the house would just be smelling great. When I think of back home in Potchefstroom, where I grew up with my grandparents, where they raised me, I remember evenings where we'd cook corn and the whole kitchen would smell like corn, or my mom or my grandma would make sampan beans, one of my favorites, so ladies take note. So I think great food makes a home for me.
Yeah. So is there something something physical that you put in a new space which makes it yours?
Since getting it, my guitar. It's the one piece that I carry with me wherever I've moved.
How long have you ever always played?
No, not always. Unfortunately, if I had the chance to have picked it up earlier, I would have. But a friend of mine who now lives in Brazil had bought this guitar as just like a hobby. But it's a really great guitar. It's an Ibanez artwood, lovely. And when he got married and was moving to Brazil, he knew how much I loved that guitar. And so he kind of sold it to me, but rather gave it to me as a gift.
How long ago was this?
This was in my first year.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, when I moved homes for the very first time, because I'd been living all my life with my grandparents. And when I went to rest, that was the first thing that when I had with me, like, this was my home. And after doing...
I claim this space.
Exactly. Wherever it is, that's where I am. And it's still a very, very precious thing to me.
Well, we look forward to the first album, written and performed. And,
hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and we will be in the front row of your admirers.
I hope so.
Good luck.
I hope so. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity.